Okay, so we'll continue with the transaction management topic. Yesterday, we touched upon the concepts on transaction management. We started with simple definitions of transactions, the different anomalies, what are the different properties, and so on. Now, when we talk about your concepts with respect to concurrent executions, how transactions support we require in order to lead to databases to consistent state. So when we try to interleave the transactions, we need to see that the consistency should be preserved. Every transaction should be executed in an isolated manner. So in order to say, we have to satisfy all the properties of the transactions, like asset properties, in order to take care of each and every transaction. So in order to take care of all those things, we need to work on specialized concept called locks. So we have advisory locks, we have mandatory locks. Both are like one and the same, but initially we started with advisory lock and mandatory lock. Now what technology we are using are with respect to mandatory locks only. Okay, so initially we had concepts with respect to advisory locks. Locks were just been told to utilize. So we can start with, before you access the data, see that you apply a lock, and it was been advised to use the concept of locks for the data. Okay, so we started with using advisory locks. Later on, we felt that locks must be used in the form of mandatorily, or why don't we utilize locks in the form of mandate concept, so that our data can be utilized or protected or taken care in a more sophisticated manner. All right, so we go with mandatory locks. So nowadays we are using mandatory locks. Now the procedure is very simple. Before you access the data, apply the lock. Okay, apply lock, submit or complete the transaction, submit or complete the transaction. Then after completing the transaction, one simple step is to close the or release the lock. I'll just say release lock. Okay, so three steps again we talk about. So this is first, this is second, and this is third. So all these three steps will have to be followed by each and every transaction. The very first step is apply lock, submit transaction or execute transaction. The third step is to release lock. Now these three steps are in such a way that without the transactions cannot execute before you apply a lock, or once the transaction is submitted, locks have to be released. So these three steps have to be mandatorily followed. That's why the name is being given as mandatory locks. Now, one thing, when we go to lock, when you are using any transactions, uh, we have two types of locks initially before we go ahead. Read lock, or it is called as shared lock. Write lock, or called as exclusive lock. So exclusive lock. So read lock is also called as shared lock. Write lock is also called as exclusive lock. Now, when we talk about read or shared lock, it can be applied to multiple processes or multiple transactions. Okay, so multiple processes or multiple transactions. Write lock or exclusive lock will be applied to only one process, not more, not not more, just a single process is applied a write lock. Okay, so these two concepts you should understand before you proceed for the additional purposes. So read lock and write lock. Read lock is also called as shared lock. Write lock is also called as exclusive lock. So read lock can be applied by multiple processes or multiple transactions. Write or exclusive lock is applied to only one process at one point of time. Now, after knowing these things, let us move forward by understanding things with respect to other concepts. Now, our main intention is to proceed the transaction in such a way that we should not lead to any problems. So, corresponding to these things, two problems may arise. One problem is deadlock, and one more problem is starvation. Two problems may arrive when we are talking with the concepts of the locks. Why we have to talk about these two is the procedure has to be followed by each and every process. The procedure have to be followed by each and every process. Now, how each and every process? So, any process before it does any transaction, apply the lock, so complete the transaction, then release the lock. There might be certain situations where we cannot where we cannot assume, or there might be some technical failures, there might be some issues when we are working on a particular say a particular transaction. Now every time the first and foremost thing is to apply lock, complete the transaction, release the lock. So these procedures have to be mandatorily followed. Now our main intention is to not to lead to any problems. There are two problems may arise: deadlock as well as starvation. Deadlock means, imagine one file is being locked by one process. It's not completed the transaction, so the lock is not released. And since the lock is applied for that block, no other process is allowed to transact that, and this is waiting for some other say for its turn to complete the transaction. So this process is already allotted some resources and waiting for some additional resources to process, and some the resources which were being it is asking by this process is allocated to someone else. So in that case we may lead to a deadlock situation. There might be certain chances where you are trying to see observe, we may arrive to deadlock, or there might be certain chances where one or two transactions are waiting for its turn to access. See, this lock has been applied by one process, and imagine this is one block. That block is applied a lock by some other process, and one process is waiting for its to work on this block. But since this block is locked, the other process is waiting for this block to release their lock. Once the lock is released by these process, the other process can access this particular block. Okay, so this is like called as starvation, or if you do not get any particular access to complete the transaction, then we say okay, starvation is arrived. So in order to resolve this, we have to see that a deadlock and starvation will not occur. Or subsequently, we need to check on the transactions that no matter if or in a particular amount of time, if the transaction is not done, we see that automatically these locks will be taken care. Now, one simple example I will try to quote. Imagine you are trying to access your ATM in your ATM machine. Um, ATM machine, see, imagine you're swiping your card. Now, what happens? See, again, if I tell, if you want to tell in detail, we can even understand when about locks. I will just tell you about that. Just hang on. Now, when I'm talking about locks, is imagine you are swiping your card. and you're trying to do one transactions using your ATM card. So the moment you swipe your card, you are being given access to your card, to your account, to with the operations. Now imagine you have swiped your card before you could proceed. There was a power off, or there was a shutdown in the power. So at the same time, simultaneously, someone want to transfer some amount to your account by using net banking or phone pay or UPI. So the other person, what they see is they cannot access your account for a particular amount of time because you are trying to access the same account using your ATM. So before you say, imagine you are first you are accessing your ATM card, so you got the first access to your data. After the moment you got access to your data has been applied a lock by your ATM. Now the same for the same account, some other person is trying to transfer some amount, but he cannot get the access because the lock is already applied by your ATM. Now, this UPI will wait or PhonePe will wait till the lock has been released by the ATM. Now, now imagine at that instant there was a issue with the network or the power at the ATM machine. Now, what happens there is the UPI guy will be waiting to complete its transaction, and the ATM is applied a lock. It cannot be released with some network or some other issue. So that is the situation where you can say for your ATM machine, it took a deadlock, and for your UPI, it took a starvation. But technically speaking, at the back end, what happens? A certain amount of time is given to proceed with the transaction. Suppose within that time out, if the transaction is not done, automatically revert of the transactions take place. Revert means you get obviously a failed, account failed or transaction failed information you get. So that's how the system has been designed. It will not make the system to go into deadline or starvation. Automatically, the systems will understand, okay, there's a problem, so let me not complete this transaction. Let me revert back with the transaction or throwing a failure. Okay, so our design of the applications are in so strong that they will take care of all these concepts in between. So deadlock and starvation will automatically be resolved without any issues. Okay, guys, any questions before we proceed? Hope you guys are understanding. Any questions are there? No, yes? Yes? Any questions? Okay, so let me move forward. Now, when you know about these transactions are working on with respect to these concepts, now all where everywhere we use the concept of lock. So locks are that important that before you access anything, you want to apply locks. So without the help of locks, it would have been impossible for us to take care of transactions. So by the concept of or with the help of locks only, today we are able to do all the transactions successfully without any issues. Now coming to locks, locks has certain say they have most of the time we do have disadvantages itself. Disadvantages is like the main thing is when one person has already applied a lock, the other one cannot access, the other one have to wait, and if there are any other issues, maybe a network issue or if there is any failures, a catastrophic failure, a power failure, or any other failure, the other would maybe not get access. So that's one particular disadvantage, but most of the time you look they have great advantage of accessing things. Now, when we are talking about so much advantages, how these advantages will come into picture, or how these advantages will will make us or will help us. So these advantages are helping us in such a way that we are taking care of the system more effectively. Locks are utilized in a more effective manner. Okay, how effective manner? Let us discuss now. So, any questions, Baba? Any questions before we proceed? Now, my question is, my intention of asking you this is, locks can be utilized or locks are utilized more effectively. So, um, how we can access or how we can make the efficient usage of the logs we will discuss now. So that is why I asked you how logs can be utilized or um, in what way we can take care of the accessing and all that we will discuss now. Now, one thing, when you are using logs, we have to understand how much you will lock, or what is the amount of things you try to apply lock. Now, one thing I would ask to the audience who are in the class now. Okay, so let me ask you one question to the audience. Now, do you have jewelries at home? Say yes or no. I want response from everybody. Say yes or no.
Yes, sir.
Certainly, it would be yes, right? Or now, where do you keep the jewelry? Do you keep at the on top of your? I mean, where do you keep that? Now, I'm not asking you for some other. I'm asking you for some reason. Please, if you don't want to answer, it's okay. You tell me, no, no, I don't want to answer this. It's okay. I can understand because confidential things cannot be shared, right? It's okay. Now, why I'm asking you this? Imagine you have a lot of jewelries. So where do you keep that? You keep it in a safe place in your house, or where you place it on a shelf. No, no, you cannot place the expensive items in the shelf, correct? So we will place them in a place where it is more and more and more secure, correct? Some people might keep in the bank lockers, some people keep might in their tijoris in their home, or something like that. It's depend on their choice or depend on their things, right? Now when you have so, where do you put a lock? Will you put a lock to only to your say your tijori or a cupboard, or a safe place where you put a lock, or you lock the entire home? Now imagine you place the jewelry in your cupboard and lock it. So will you lock the whole room, not locking the cupboard, or will you lock only the cupboard where you place only the jewelry in that section you please put a lock? I want the response from you guys. Come on. Darshan, I can see you're unmute. Anybody have any questions? Anything to say? Guys, please understand what I'm trying to convince you is, if you're placing jewelry inside your cupboard in the secret section, you will try to lock only that secret section, or you will try to lock only that section where you keep your jewelry. Others, you are not much worried, correct? Do you agree with me? Say yes or no. Can I have your response, guys? Yes or no? Or you lock the entire home and keep every time? It's not possible, right? You feel that nobody is coming in, nobody is going out, so you don't do that. So normally what I'm trying to tell you is, we are using locks for our data, correct? So my purpose of asking you all about your jewelries is with respect to your data. Now, when you're accessing data, how much to lock the data? Or what portion of the data you will try to apply a lock? Now, as I said, if you want to access the data, first apply lock. This is for sure. Now, as we proceed with your data, we observe that um, to which portion lock has to be applied to do effectively the work. That's my question. Now imagine you want to access your account. Now imagine account is in your one bank called as SBI, for instance. Okay, now what you do, I am talking on how much to lock or effective usage of utilization of locks. So how locks can be utilized in a more effective manner so that in their advantages will become tremendous. Okay, so now please understand what I'm talking. Now imagine you have an account in a particular bank, for example, called as SBI. Now when you want to access that account, now see how the ATMs will work or how the entire procedure will work. Now your account will be in one branch of a particular place. Now there are n number of branches in that bank. Now the architecture of the bank you observe, you have one branch. Now in one city there are multiple branches. Among them one will be main branch. This is like a one city, and you have multiple cities like this. They are interconnected to one district, and this is like district. You have multiple districts connected to one called as clusters, and multiple clusters are connected to one state, and from one state they are connected to cluster states, and from cluster states they are connected to um, let me write this. Okay, from one cluster state you have connected to one cluster of states. From one cluster states to they are connected to one national center. Okay, so from national it is connected to international and other things. Okay, so international connectivity. Now see the hierarchy is like this. So from city to districts, from districts to clusters, from clusters to state, then state to state clusters, then to national, then to international. And in this is the hierarchy how a bank's all connected. Now we say all the banking system is changed to core banking system. You know what is the meaning of core banking system? Core banking system says from one bank to any bank of any branch can be accessed from any bank. So from any branch you can access your account to anywhere throughout the globe. So all the banks will fall in one roof called as core banking system. Okay, so that's how it has been called. Now I am just try to understand, I am talking on locks concept. Now imagine, as I told you, once you know the architecture of this, now you understand how I'm trying to access your lock concept with respect to a bank. So once you know the hierarchy of all the bank accessing, now each bank has associated with multiple ATMs in one city. Okay, one bank has multiple ATMs. As you see, now this is one bank I told. The same architecture will be for multiple banks. Okay, I just took one example of a one bank. There are n number of banks with n number of branches with the same architecture, and all are using core banking system. Now, now imagine there are multiple ATMs are also there. There are multiple ATMs, you have phone pays, you have net bankings, so many facilities are there. Now, how does lock work on that particular concept? So we have to understand how much to lock, lock, when to release the lock. Okay, so please understand, no doubt by using the concept of locks, we are achieving database consistency every time and making that our data is safe and easy, or the database, I mean, your all the properties are being meeting of transactions. So data is taking care of all the things by using the concept of locks. That's not about that. There's no doubt about that. Now, what I'm talking to you is how much to lock, what portion of the data should be locked, how much the lock has to be acquired. That's the important thing you should understand. Okay, now please consider this example of accessing your account. You are trying to access your account of this particular bank. The bank architecture is this. Now, when you try to access your swipe your card, where should the lock be acquired? Now, the lock should be acquired to the entire database of your bank, or only to the bank or a branch where you have your account. Please answer my question. I'm asking you again and again. Please understand. When you are accessing your account, where should be the lock has to be acquired? Whether if the lock has to put on the entire database of the SBI, or only to the portion of your particular bank account, or only to the portion of a particular bank. Can you hear me, guys? Can I have some response? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
So please answer my question. So what I'm asking you is, where does the lock acquired happens only to what portion of the data is locked? Now imagine if you are putting lock to the entire database. So at that instance, you are the only one person accessing the account for the whole SBI people. So you may, I mean, you can imagine what's happening there. So if you lock the whole entire database, you are the only one person accessing the data at that instance. Now slowly, if you come down to a particular account, now imagine you are the only one person to the entire database, in the sense no person in the world is allowed to access apart from you, because you acquired the lock. Now slowly, if you observe by putting the lock only to a little limited portion, see what happens. See how things are happening. Now imagine if you apply lock only to particular, only in our country, leaving the international clusters. So if you put a lock only to the nation, in our entire country, you will be the only one person accessing your account. Now, when I come down slowly by applying lock only to certain portion, see what happens. So you were the only one person in the whole world. Then you slowly move down to the entire country, and see then what is happening. Then if you acquire a lock for the entire world, for the entire database, in the sense nobody can do any other access leaving you, because you acquired the lock. Okay, now if I move down to the country, you are the only one person in the entire country doing the transaction. So what about all others? Others are still waiting for their turn. Now when I come down in the same way to the particular state, so what's happening there? So you are the only one person in the entire state accessing your data, and others are waiting. If you come down a little more slowly to your particular thing, so what's happening there? So others are waiting for their turn. You can imagine at one point of time how many ATMs are there, how many people are trying to access their data. This is what important thing. So if you acquire a lock, or the whole country has to wait if you are using, if you acquire the lock for the national state. Same way with respect to state. So you're the only one person accessing, no others are accessing in the whole state. So you're the only one person. You can imagine how many ATMs are there, how many people, how many banks are there. The entire state will wait for your accessing. Now, if you come down to little more downwards, you observe that you applied a lock only to that district. So what's happening? The entire district, you're the only one person accessing, but still others are waiting. You can imagine there are so many people still waiting. So you still come bound to a particular city. But that's even not correct, that entire city has to wait for you. So you apply a lock only to your branch. Still, that's not correct. You apply a lock only to your account. Okay, so lock will be applied only to your account, only your account, nowhere else. That means if you except your account, all other accounts are free to access from anywhere, from anything. I mean, like from anywhere, in the sense from anywhere in the globe they can access their account. So also with respect to net banking, phone banking, anything can be used. Are you understanding what I'm talking? So what portion is to be locked? The lock to be applied only to that portion where you are trying to access your data. Understanding? So lock will be applied where? Only to that portion of your data which you are accessing. Now lock will be applied only to your account, not to your branch, not to your branch, not to your bank. It will apply a lock only to your account. Okay, so for that account number, whoever is accessing will be held. But certainly that's very rarely happens. Simultaneously multiple people accessing same account may not be possible. May be possible, but they hardly simultaneously, no chance of accessing. So that's how your transactions will get accessed, or will be executed within no time. All right, so within one quick shot, all the transactions will be executed. So lock has to be applied where? Only to that portion of the data which is required. So the moment you swipe your card, see what's happening at the end, at the back end, or at the server side, or at the system side. What's happening? You please understand that. Now lock will be, so before you access, so the once you plug in your card, see the card readability will stop for the to complete till the transaction completes. The light is off for the swiping card. So swiping card light will go off. You might have imagined that. That means it cannot accept any other card. Okay, because the transaction is already initiated. So that means when your card is red, the account from where, we don't know where our account's data is, but that access you try to in that access is being provided for that particular card. Okay, so this card number holds this account number, so redirect the whole channel to a particular account to access. So when we focus on a particular account, the lock will be acquired only to that account. Rest all accounts are free to access. That means lock will be applied only to that portion of the file where you are trying to access. Okay, so now we came back to, now this was the whole database. In one database, I have multiple tables. From multiple tables, I brought down to a single table. From single table, I am trying to have multiple records in one table. In multiple records, I will try to focus on only one record of that account which I am trying to access now. Hope you guys are understanding. So I will try to cut down where? Only to that portion of your account which I am trying to access now. So only one record I will try to access. So for one lock, I will try to use only one record. So that makes sense. The others are free to access. The others can be easily accessed without any issues. So no doubt I'm using locks concept, but I should see also observe that what way or in how much portion of the lock I'm acquiring to the data. So if I do so, if I try to apply lock to the entire database, I cannot do other purpose. Now see what is the, and also understand in this record how what I am accessing. I am trying to access only just one account balance. From account balance, I will try to read and try to update some data or just read and leave it. Again, depends on what type of transaction, whether I'm doing inserting the data, whether I'm updating or whether I'm just trying to access. That again depends. Just to access one simple balance or one simple record, if I put the lock to the entire database, see the efficiency of the database. Now, if I try to lock only a portion of the data, and what about others? Others are free to access. That means simultaneously n number of accounts can be accessed by simultaneously all the ATMs. Understood? So all the transactions can be simultaneously executed. That makes to access the data in a more faster way or boosting up the performance. So our main intention is to boost the performance. So when we want to boost the performance, we have to create such environment where you can access the data more securely, more safely, and to see that our data is more consistent. So by using of locks, we can create that environment to access data more securely. So one thing I remind you again, we have two types of locks, read lock and write lock. Read lock is also called as a shared lock. Write lock is also called as exclusive lock. Read lock can be applied by multiple processes. Write lock can be applied only one process at one point of time. Okay. So guys, any questions before we proceed? No, yes, no, yes. Come on, one or two questions. Hope you guys are understanding what I'm talking. This is more like a background. You should understand what I'm talking. Any questions? Anybody have any questions? No? Okay, now we will talk one protocol called as two-phase locking protocol. Okay, please understand two-phase locking protocol. So this is also called as a 2PL. Okay, two-phase locking protocol or 2PL. Okay, so two-phase locking protocol. So I'll tell you the story of the two-phase locking protocol in two different ways. Don't imagine that since the name is two, so I'm telling you two stories. No, no, no. Two different textbooks tell two different stories. So I will tell both the stories. You can understand, or you can go, or you can think what I'm talking. Okay, please understand what I'm talking. Now, one textbook says, see, please understand the importance of locks, the importance of read lock and write lock. So read lock can also be told as shared lock, exclusive lock, or write lock. You please understand that. So read lock can be applied by multiple processes or multiple transactions simultaneously. Write lock can be applied by only one process at one point of time. Okay, so if multiple people want to access same data, writing cannot be allowed. Okay, so two textbooks say 2PL in two different ways. Now, why the name is called as two is we have two phases in the protocol. Two-phase locking protocol, we call it as two-phase locking protocol. Okay, two-phase locking protocol. Okay, this is called as 2PL, two-phase locking protocol. Now, two-phase means two steps. Phase means what? Steps. Steps means two steps, two phases. So one textbook says two phases. One is growing phase and second one is shrinking phase. Okay, please understand what are the meaning of growing phase and shrinking phase. Okay, one textbook says growing phase and shrinking phase. So since two phases are there, it is called as two-phase locking protocol. Okay, any questions, guys? Anybody have any questions or any queries? Please respond. Are you hearing to me? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
What about others? I cannot see anybody responding. 62 students are in class. I don't know, only one responding. What about the other 61? Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Great. Okay, so please understand two phase. Two phase means two steps. One step is growing, the other step is shrinking. Now, please understand the meaning of these two phases. Growing phase means acquiring the lock. Shrinking phase means releasing the lock. Okay, please understand. I'll repeat again. Growing phase means acquiring the lock. Shrinking phase means releasing the lock. Very simple. Now, please understand how do I talk this. I tell you growing phase what happens, shrinking phase what happens. So the two phases, two-phase protocol. Okay, this is used for what purpose? Locking purpose. So we say this is called as two-phase locking protocol. In simple words, we say it is 2PL. Okay, now when I say growing phase, what happens in growing phase? Any process or transaction want to access the data must be acquired a lock during the growing phase. I repeat again. Any process or transaction want to access the data must acquire a lock during this phase. Now, what type of lock? It can be a read lock or write lock. Now, when I supposed to say read lock can be applied to multiple processes simultaneously. Okay, so when I'm trying to use growing lock, so in growing phase, I can see that multiple processes can be acquired simultaneously a read lock. Now, please understand, growing phase means acquiring the lock. So any process or transaction want to access the data must acquire either a read lock for multiple processes simultaneously, or a write or exclusive lock for only one process at one point of time. This is called what as growing phase. Hope you guys are understanding. You want me to repeat? Okay, I'll repeat again. Just have a look again. Now, what I'm telling you? Any transaction or process which want to access the data, any process or anybody has raised a hand? Yes, Karthik, you want to say something, Baba? You raised your hand, so I asked you. Karthik S. Koti, you have any question?
No, sir.
No? You raised your hand, so ask, Baba. No question? Fine. So please understand. Please understand. Okay, no problem. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is, any process or transaction which you want, which want to access the data, must acquire a read lock in case of simultaneous multiple process can acquire a read lock. Okay, if a lock has to be a write lock, in the sense only one process is allowed at one point of time. This is called as your growing phase. In shrinking phase, what happens? Any process that has already acquired a lock at the growing phase must release the lock at the shrinking phase. Any process which has already acquired a lock during growing phase must release their lock at the shrinking phase. This is the shrinking phase. I repeat again, any process which has acquired a lock during a growing phase must release the lock at shrinking phase. Now, when I say acquiring the lock, what type of lock? It may be a multiple lock, multiple processes applied a read lock, or a single process applied a write lock, must be released during shrinking phase. This is called as your two-phase locking protocol. Are you understanding? Are you understanding? Now, same way, if I want to tell these two stories about the growing phase and shrinking phase. Now, the other textbook says in a different way, in a little bit challenging way, or a little bit more advanced way, locking will be taken in two different steps. Okay, well, main purposely, you know this is the most important thing, whatever I told now. Now, always if you want to apply a write lock first. Okay, how to apply a write lock? Now, again, you have a certain algorithm for this, but algorithms are a little bit out of your scope, because you don't find writing algorithms in one book. In the reference book, you find algorithm for this. So I'm not putting much focus on the algorithm, but the algorithm is very straightforward. Please understand. Very simple. Firstly, if I want to use a write lock, if I want to apply a write lock, first apply a read lock, because when you want to write the data, first you should read the data. So when first step is to read the data, next step is to write the data. Now, please understand, if I want to read the data, first which lock has to be applied? Read lock has to be applied. Now, if I want to say read lock, see, my intention is to write the data. Okay, my intention is to write the data. Okay, so before writing, I should read that data. Okay, so in order to read data, what I should do? I should acquire a read lock. So if I want to acquire a read lock can be applied to multiple data simultaneously. Yes, agreed. So if I want to observe that multiple read locks can be acquired, then before you apply a write lock should do what? Now first, read lock of X. Okay, so first I should do what? I should read the data. So for writing the data, first I should read the data. So before I want to read, I should apply a read lock. So read lock can be applied to multiple simultaneously, multiple transactions can read the data. So I can see that this read lock can be applied by multiple processes or multiple transactions simultaneously. So data read has to be happen. So read the data now. After reading, release all the locks. You are able to understand now. So I should do what? I should release all the locks at once. Okay, not even a single process should be acquire a read lock before I go for write lock. Now, when I say write lock, so before I write, so this read lock will be for multiple processes or multiple transactions simultaneously. Here I should see that or release all locks. All read locks must be released, or all locks must be released here. Now, when I'm writing acquire a write lock, only one for only one process or only one transactions. Okay, then write the data. After writing the data, it's still not over. Say release the lock. Release write lock. Okay. Now here I am doing two steps. What are two steps? Before I could write the data, I am reading the data. So if I want to write data, first read the data. So for to read the data, I use read lock. Read lock can be applied by multiple transactions or multiple processes simultaneously. So read the data. After reading the data, release all the locks. See, not even a single read lock to be acquired when I'm doing write operations. So release all the read locks first. So once you release all the read locks, then go for writing the lock. So write lock can or exclusive lock can be applied to only one process at one point of time. So after applying write lock, write the data. So till the lock is released, see that no other process is acquired any type of locks. Okay, once the write lock is acquired, see that not even read or not even write is applied to that particular data. Once the write lock is released, then you can proceed with the other transactions. So this is all about two-phase locking protocol. So here in one textbook says, since I am doing these two operations simultaneously, so this is called as two-phase locking protocol. But to your level, the actual speaking is this. I want to cover the information of both the textbooks, so I covered both. But actually speaking, you concentrate on these steps only. Okay, this is from the reference information or reference to book says like this. So I will tell you both, you understand both the concepts. Okay, if you want to write the if you want to use write write a concept, if you are using write operation to the data, first you should read, then write. So in order to read, use read lock. Read lock can be applied simultaneously to multiple transactions. So all the multiple transactions, read lock must be released first, then apply write lock. So once the write lock is applied, then write the data. So please see that the write lock can be utilized in such a way that only one process or only one transaction is allowed to write the data. Others are not given access. Okay, so till the write lock releases, do not allow any other transactions or processes to acquire the locks. And also see that we will not lead to either deadlock or starvation. These two concepts has to be addressed so that these two will not create any problem. Okay, suppose if they are arriving to deadlock or starvation concepts, we need to make the system not to lead to those steps. So if any problems do arise in your transactions, see that automatically within a particular timeout, these two transactions will revert to the original state before the start of the application. So that technique is called as recovery technique. So recovery technique, please understand the recovery techniques. Any questions before we proceed with the recovery techniques? Any questions? Yes, no? Do you have any questions? Anybody have any questions? No, yes? I just want to hear from you. Yes?
No, sir.
No questions? Great. Okay, now please understand the recovery algorithms. Why the recovery algorithms are required? The recovery algorithms are required in order to recover the data in case of any failures. I may have any failures like a catastrophic failure or a network failure or a power failure or maybe another issue. So in order to fix the issues, we need to work on recovery techniques. One recovery technique is Aries algorithm. Aries algorithm. So this algorithm I'll discuss in next class. But before I will discuss now what is the background required for Aries algorithm. Okay, so you need to have sufficient background in order to study any algorithms. Okay, so Aries recovery algorithm it is called. Okay, so I have seen questions with respect to 2PL, two-phase locking protocol, or one information you please understand the fifth module you should study from Raghu Ramakrishnan textbook according to your schedule or according to the syllabus which is prescribed by the university. That textbook, prescribed textbook for transaction management is Raghu Ramakrishnan textbook. I have shared that textbook also. You please follow that. Now, please understand, I am teaching all the concepts from all the books so that you can understand. I'm following 2 to 3 textbooks, so all the concepts which covering all the concepts, I'm explaining all of them. Okay, so first, before you understand the Aries algorithm, you should have, or before we start learning or reading on Aries algorithm, you should know one concept called as, or certain concepts called as, let me write that, steal, no steal, force, comma, no force. These 4 words have to be understood first very thoroughly before we go with any recovery algorithms. Hope you guys are understanding. Now, I can even say dirty data. Anybody heard about dirty data? There are certain things or with respect to data coherence, dirty data coherence. There are certain concepts which are certainly out of your scope, but don't worry. Now, now what do you mean by dirty data? Please understand. Or before you go with Aries algorithm, these words have to be clearly understood. These are not hi-fi words. These are again simple words. You need to understand them. That's it. Now, what is the meaning of steal? What is the meaning of no steal? What is the meaning of force? What is the meaning of no force? You understand. And subsequently, you will learn what is dirty data. Now, every time you have to read the data. So any transactions you are doing, you need to read the data. Okay. Always when you are reading, read committed data. Normally, whenever I am talking to anything, first always read committed data. We always read committed data. Okay, please understand that. Committed data means the data which is stored at your disk permanently. Only that data is read every time. So I think I have already told what is the complete transaction. So what do you mean by complete transaction? In a transaction, if I have any operation, read of A, W of A, I must have a commit or abort. Okay, if I do not find any operation in a transaction without a commit or an abort, I don't call that as a complete transaction. Now, any transactions you observe that is inbuilt with the commit or abort statements. Now, whenever you are trying to read the data, see that you read the committed data only. Okay, when you commit the data, the moment you operate or execute the write operation, after completion of immediately write statement, you go with commit. Okay, we don't stay long time to say commit the data. Certainly, the moment we complete the write data, we execute the write data operation, we say commit. Or certainly we may use abort. No, not a problem. Sometimes we may use abort, sometimes we may use commit. But certainly we will execute a commit after a write statement. Any statements without a commit or abort are not treated as a complete transaction. So we cannot read uncommitted data. Certainly, when you are reading the data, we will make sure that we always read committed data but not uncommitted data. Okay, so when we are reading committed data, when data is read, data will be read. Obviously, when data is read, it will not become dirty. But data, when is updated but not committed, that becomes the dirty data. I repeat again, data always will be read is committed data. Data will be which data will be read every time? Always committed data only will be read. Okay, please understand this. Always we read which data? Committed data only. So once we read committed data, the data which is updated to something else, that becomes dirty data. Or data which is altered but still yet to commit, that becomes dirty data. Okay, we will never give a chance to the data. That data is going to two different directions. Different directions means one is holding, one is already have the read the data, the other one updated. We'll never do that. Then it becomes dirty data. Okay, one operation is reading some data, and write data is updating to something else. So then becomes what? Data becomes dirty. We normally say dirty data. Okay, so every time we have to see that data is consistent. Okay, every time we observe that data is consistent. Data must be consistent every time. Okay, that's the major protocol what we have to use. Okay, every time we must have the data which is committed. Now imagine if the data is read by some by process, the other process is writing the data, then we say that is the dirty data. Okay, now that is all about your dirty data. Now what is about steal and no force? Steal, no steal, force, no force. Now, hope you understood what is the background with respect to read data, committed data, uncommitted data, complete transaction, and dirty data. After knowing all these background, we will step into the concepts of steal, no steal, force, no force. Now, steal means what? Data reading or updating the data. Once the data is getting updated, that means data has become dirty. When data has become dirty, I mean steal means data is altered. From committed data, data becomes dirty. Okay, no steal means data has not become dirty or nobody has altered the data, so we say no steal. Okay, force means commit the data to, commit the data. So once the operation is done, once the transaction is successfully executed, we try to commit the data. So doing that commit is called as a force. Okay, our intention is to write back the data permanently. To do that, we have to use commit. So when I'm forcing the data means I am trying to execute commit statement forcefully. Now, force means commit the data. No force means do not commit the data. Okay, please understand. I'm giving the gist again. Steal means data has become dirty or data has altered. Once the data is altered, data becomes dirty or someone has stolen the data, we say. Stolen the data means he has read the data or he has updated that data. So that updation is called as what? Steal the data. No steal means data has not manipulated, data has not altered, so we say it as no steal. Reading committed data is always called as no stealing. If you are writing the data, then data becomes steal or data becomes dirty. Okay, if data is stolen, then data has become dirty. Okay, so force means what? Committing the data. Commit the data so that it is leading to final storage. Okay, force means commit the data and save the data permanently. If data is updated, if everything is fine, we commit the data. Okay, say force. Okay, now no force means do not commit the data. Okay, understood the meaning of these words. Steal means data has become dirty. No steal means data has not become dirty. Force means commit the data. No force means do not commit the data. Okay, so let me give you one or two words before we close. So I say steal, no force. No steal, force. Now please understand the meaning of these two words. Steal, no force. No steal, force. Okay, please understand. Steal, no force means what? Data has stolen. Do not force this data to commit. Data is stolen. Data has become dirty. When data has become dirty, tell no force means what? Do not commit this data. Okay, when data is not stolen, you can force the force to commit. Now, why these concepts I'm discussing is data can be read by multiple transactions simultaneously. We cannot predict that which transaction executing what. There might be multiple transactions simultaneously executing. When data is not there with multiple transactions or multiple operations, you can say, you may even ask a doubt, sir, when data is getting manipulated, is the data not getting dirty? Of course it is getting dirty, but you see that data is not copied by multiple people. One is reading, the other one is writing, then becomes dirty. If you read, the same person is writing the data and nobody is accessing means obviously no problem, you can force that data. Imagine you are swiping your card. Okay, you are swiping your card. Simultaneously, if anybody wants to access the same account, then what happens? Both at one point of time only one can access. Okay, when imagine you swipe your card and you're withdrawing something, the other one is trying to deposit something, but since he has to wait till you complete your ATM transaction. Simultaneously both reading same data and both want to update, then the steal problem will come. Okay, now imagine both read simultaneously and both trying to update what happens. One is executing read and one is executing write. Then data becomes steal. Data becomes obviously dirty. Okay, so two people trying to access same object simultaneously, then you get a problem with these things. Okay, so but if you have only one transaction executing, we will never say data has stolen or data is having problem. Automatically you will execute things in a more confined way. Now please say steal no force means data is not become dirty. You can commit the data without any issues. If data is definitely stolen or if data has definitely become dirty, do not force that data. Now, with these two concepts, we discuss Aries algorithm in the next class. Okay, so steal, no force, no steal force. These two concepts we use for Aries algorithm in the next class. Okay, so today to wrap up, we discussed about the importance of locks, how locks can be utilized, in what way the locks can be maintained, the locks can be preserved, and how do we take care about the locks. We talked about advisory locks, mandatory locks. Then we talked about how the what portion of the lock has to be worked on. We also have to understand to resolve the issues with respect to um, uh, starvation and deadlock. Then we talked about two-phase locking protocol. What are the two phases? How the lock can be applied and other things. Okay, so finally, effective usage of locks we discussed. And finally, we studied about these concepts or the background for Aries recovery algorithm. So in tomorrow's class, we'll discuss Aries algorithm and wall protocol if possible. Okay, so Aries algorithm stands on two concepts called as steal, no force, no steal, force. So this is one concept, the other one is this concept. So based on these concepts only, we will learn about Aries algorithm. So guys, any questions you have? If anybody has any questions, they can discuss, else we can stop the class.